What's up, world? What's up, Zion? It's been easy coming at you again once more. As usual, I do have a couple slides that I want to share with you in this fine day that we're having here. And of course, before we get to those slides, I want to issue a disclaimer, right? A fair use disclaimer. For the copywritten material that's going to be shared here in this post, right? So then, after that is out of the way, let's dive into it, right? Well, of course, this is why the last time I called the guy a hypocrite and a puppet, right? And his silence is paid for. This is what I think. He's there to convince the world, right? Or at least leave the question unanswered about the nuclear program in Iran. Right? So as some people can come out here and say, hey, these people lied to the UN about their enrichment and all of this. Basically, their intentions were malicious. So we need to go to war. Understand? Okay. This is a meme of our time. But true. They done figured out the game. Well, the problem is that he doesn't have a dog on the race on that angle. He did, and swindled some individuals, some gullible individuals, that is. Well, these times, they're gonna be remembered. Okay? They're gonna be remembered these times. These discussions, these talks, they're gonna be really, really important. So this is what is floating out there. And again, like I said, whatever they said, the opposite is true. This is their nature. This is not the idea of the Gulf states, but rather the idea of the Europeans, right? They need to do it quick, because now they're realizing that the US is really not an ally or a partner. And within themselves, they treat others like the same way, right? Orban. Well, we're gonna see what they're gonna go after down the line in these slides here. Hello. So the madness continues, right? Zelensky out here trying to buy legitimacy and all of that. After blowing up many churches, they think that a PR stunt is gonna fix it all. He's no longer a Nazi. Why did this have to happen? And believe me, it's gonna get worse. this will not help you. And this was not the request of the US. This is the request from somebody we know. But again, the US is supposed to be the fall guy in this whole scenario. Why? Because the repercussion wouldn't be so severe. Right? It's a calculated move. That's what I think anyway. Well, look at that. Well, what is she talking about? Well, she's rather addressing the sanctions the EU has placed on Iran, for you who are not informed. Right? And I don't know if people now have understood that sanctions are a tool of warfare. If you don't believe me, to a current living example, go to Cuba over there and tell me if that's not a tool of war. Again, you're more interested in narratives rather than the real problem, the real issue that still remains and will remain after this. Well, this is what they're after. They know that whatever they're gonna do, it's gonna affect the power grid of Iran. Now they're calling it a crisis. Well, mans, where is the UN guy for this stuff? Kwema. Read. Well, the bigger question is, why now? This is a response to something. And what is it? I've already told you, but hey, I want you to figure it out and ask the questions. Why now? Why this sudden rise in this form of nationalism, this Christian form of nationalism? Why? Well, let's read what Tucker is talking about, and we are going to have a conversation about the real problem, as I've addressed it before many times, but it flies in most people's head. Why? Because I believe it's because of the brainwashing. Kamaga! President Trump told world leaders last night that if they want the Strait of Hormuz opened, they have to figure out how to do it. His remarks were a declaration that America cannot universally fix the world problems. I don't think that's the case. Okay? The world's problem is not the Strait of Hormuz. That's a lie. Okay? That's a lie and an exaggeration. They are talking about the Strait of Hormuz, and that does not even come close the problems that this world has. Okay, but let's continue. Others need the Gulf's oil more than we do, and our power has limits. So what if your power didn't have limit? This could force Washington to completely rethink our national role in geopolitics. Okay? Instead of trying to control the entire globe, they may shift their focus to our hemisphere and our country. Again, from my perspective, you are talking like a real, like a genuine neocon right now. Maybe you don't see it, but you're talking like one. Okay? You're talking like one. What is this control? So what? Should other countries be under your control? Is that what it is? Right, there's this line of thinking. Like, for instance, how can you reconcile your love for the AES, Obama, and America? How can you do that? It is literally impossible. Obama attacked Libya. Libya, the insurgents over there spread their chaos and weapons that they stole to the AES, causing all these massacres that we are seeing. So then, truth, brothers and sisters, truth. That is the problem that is lacking here. Right? Your role in geopolitics is not to interfere in other people's affairs. That's none of your business how other countries are run. For better or for worse, it's none of your business. The whole world knows that you have more to do in your own house rather than having the audacity to even point fingers to other people's houses and try to fix said houses. That's none of your business. And somehow it's a whole nation. It's a whole nation. They think like this. I've heard it many times from different ethnic groups and different alternative media personnel. Many of them, they speak in these lines. They find a way to justify interfering in other people's countries, right? They find a way. Even though later on they might regret the process, but at that particular point they found a way to justify whatever they are doing. So indeed, they will call Maduro a dictator. Yes, that's none of your business. Why do they think in these lines? Because they actually believe that they vote for their leaders. They actually think they vote. The time that your vote matters, the system would literally collapse within itself. That power cannot be given to you, ever. There's too much at stake. That is the problem. I don't know why they are not putting this whole situation together. It's not even hard mathematics. These people have billions and billions in forecasting, current investment. Do you think they're going to just leave that thing to probability and randomness? No, they're going to control everything. And that's the whole point. They even control your minds and how you think. Look at how you speak. No mention of the death, no mention of the massacres. That should be your priority. That is the biggest loss, not bridges, not buildings, not artillery pieces, not crafts. Human life. This is why they are launching this Artemis mission and all of these propaganda. This is propaganda. And East and the West, they're all in on it. This big lie of space existing, and they have sold and thrown a lot of people into delusion and confusion. For what reason they're hiding the truth? Yeah, you're gonna have to ask them at one point, but the truth is gonna come out, right? This guy here, they're taking opportunity, right? You believe that they can never possibly fake an alien invasion because they know that the earth is not what we have presented to the world. So what would happen? It's your word against them. They have shown the freaking aliens and the freaking craft and all of these bizarre things and the sciences that we as the public don't even know that exists. Right? Look at what this guy is saying here. If the Americans saw aliens report, he was shown, this country would have come unglued. These are strong words. And he said, you'll be up all night. Is that the case? Do we have extraterrestrials? Do we have, quote unquote, other planets? Can they circumnavigate the moon as they're trying to sell it to the world right now as we speak? And this is to you. I'll show you about China and Russia. This is you. What do you think would happen? Maybe you're in on it to bring us aliens and stuff. Is that what it is?
What people call conflicts of interest, Steve and I call experience and trusted relationships. In 1 month, the U.S. dropped more than 5,000 bombs on Iran and billed the American taxpayer over $30 billion to do it. And one name keeps coming up as responsible: Jared Kushner. But to understand how, you need to know about two key relationships. The first goes back to when Kushner was a teenager. Buried in a 2017 New York Times article is a detail that's stayed under the radar. When Benjamin Netanyahu used to stay in the United States, he would stay at the Kushner family home in New Jersey. Most diplomats meet foreign leaders at negotiating tables. Jared Kushner met Benjamin Netanyahu when Netanyahu was sleeping in his bed, forcing Jared to sleep in the basement. The second relationship is with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS. And to understand that one, you need to know what happened the moment Kushner left Trump's first White House. He started a private equity firm called Affinity Partners to capitalize on his Middle East connections, despite having no experience in asset management whatsoever. So he went to the Saudi State Public Investment Fund and asked for money. And so the Saudi government Kushner had spent 4 years protecting wired him $2 billion. Kushner took that $2 billion in Saudi money to become the largest shareholder in Phoenix Holdings, Israel's biggest insurance company. Israel and Saudi Arabia used to be historic rivals, and yet Kushner, leveraging those Netanyahu and MBS relationships, said he wanted to open a, quote, investment corridor between Saudi Arabia and Israel. He is the corridor. Saudi money flowing through Kushner into the Israeli economy is the financial infrastructure of a new Middle East, recentered around Gulf Israeli ties. And every dollar that flows through it builds a region that doesn't want Iran at the table. Netanyahu actually said it out loud.
Saudi Arabia will have a lot to gain. I think all these countries around Iran are threatened by Iran, and I think peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia would be really possible and probably very close once this thing happens.
And then came the Iran negotiations this past February. Diplomats from Britain and Oman said a deal was close and that war could be avoided. But Kushner told Trump there was no chance of a deal and that Iran was about to attack the United States.
Not Kushner alone, and Witkoff also. He gave that infamous interview where he was just mocking the dignitaries of the other side, you know, and basically framing it as they're arrogant in their demands and all of these things, you know. They both did it. They call themselves Jews, of course.
The Pentagon briefed congressional staff the exact opposite, that Iran had no plans to strike the US. The Guardian reported that a diplomat...
Look at them. Where did these people come from?
with direct knowledge of the talks said Kushner was regarded as an Israeli asset, trying to drag the US into war. An Israeli asset who had Netanyahu sleeping in his childhood bedroom. Kushner's ideology was there long before the money was. What the money did was align financial interests perfectly with ideology.
Et je termine là-dessus. C'est le poster que vous avez derrière moi. Mars 2021. Un grand nombre de personnes ont réalisé que les individus vaccinés devenaient quasiment tous électromagnétiques, à minima au point d'injection. Mai 2021, en Espagne, le docteur Pablo Compra découvrait par le biais de son microscope électronique à transmission la présence de milliards de nanoparticules d'oxyde de graphène dans les flacons convinently de Pfizer.
See that?
En Italie, les docteurs Gatti et Montanari découvraient les mêmes composants, milliards de nanoparticules d'oxyde de graphène dans les...
I also heard somebody is using this graphene in their microchip. Well, people are gonna wake up too late, right? Why? Well, because they believe that they are right. They make the mistake of assuming that whomever they idolize might actually be on their side, right? The side of humanity, and that is a mistake, right? There are some people who are speaking truth to power and all of these things, and still they are operating for the other side. You know, that's just the reality. Okay, that's just the reality, right? We have had conversations about graphene here, right?
Convinently de Pfizer. En Italie, les docteurs Gatti et Montanari découvraient les mêmes composants inorganiques avec leur microscope électronique à balayage environnemental. Ils ont également découvert plusieurs dizaines d'autres composants qui ne figuraient pas dans la liste des composants officiels déclarés par les sociétés pharmaceutiques. En Argentine, Lorena Di Blasi.
Guess who were behind the conspiracy? Guess who? One tribe.
Et Marcella Sangorine ont fait les mêmes découvertes, mais en pire s'agissant des métaux lourds et des composants non déclarés.
55. Wow. How can you even accept this? I would sign an NDA to know the components if it was a patent issue and stuff. But 55, no. Many people are in the conspiracy. That's the reality.
55 composants non déclarés, dont certains sont mortels. En Allemagne, en Angleterre, en Corée, ou encore en Australie, même recherche, même résultat, même constat.
And why are we not hearing about this? Traitors. Traitors, I say.
Rappelez-vous qu'en août 2021, au Japon, le ministère de la Santé a fait retirer tous les lots des vaccins de la société Moderna en raison d'une découverte de contamination. Mais de quelle contamination parle-t-on? Aujourd'hui, tous ces chercheurs sont formels. Il ne s'agit pas d'une contamination, mais d'un véritable crime contre l'humanité. Un crime machiavélique, organisé et planifié depuis longtemps.
You caught that? Did you catch that? What they're observing is that it was meticulous. It was planned for a long time. The execution is too perfect. So it wasn't an accident, an industrial fluke, as some people say. It was intentional.
Ce que vous voyez sur ce poster, ce sont les meilleures images que nous ayons actuellement en notre possession. Ces photos représentent les nanoparticules disposées en nanoréseau.
They are not self-assembling. Again, they are not self-assembling. They are using your phone to control them. Take it from a person who has experienced these weapons. You know what they did the last time I posted this video? As I was posting this video, they gave me what I call COVID-like symptoms. How did they do it? This phone that I'm holding has enough radiation to cause radiation poisoning, to begin to cause radiation poisoning, which in turn produces mucus. This is well known. Okay, you can stop this video and open up your Google search and Google the symptoms of radiation. You might mistake it for a flu, right? So they are not self-assembling, sir. They are given commands to assemble in that manner, and they can be configured in many forms and manner, using, of course, organic materials found within your body to form this hybrid. So they're using magnetic fields from your phone. Just imagine how many people they have killed like this. Using magnetic fields from your phone, nanoparticles, right, which of course themselves have magnetic fields, that's why they can be controlled in the first place, targeting your heart. What would happen? Targeting anywhere. Right? They're talking about this nano network. There's no nano network. They're receiving command externally with these towers and stuff. Right? This is why they have brought 5G. Why? Because it enables precise throwing of magnetic fields. Right? So again, stop being late to the party. These things, people knew the first year, okay, and they have done a good job in suppressing the video. There are literally videos here on YouTube of these things under microscopes, but they just disappear. You don't find them. Okay, so if you are not their target, then these things will just swim around your body and they will be taken out at one point in time, right? Unless they attach them somewhere permanently, right? I don't know how they could do that, but apparently they can. It is a conspiracy. And who is this that behaves like this? And how are we not even being looped into the discussion? Why is the UN not saying nothing? Because I expect nothing from the UN. That's the truth. It is there to serve a particular purpose, not what it is advertised to us as it is its purpose. No. These are experts, right? With powerful microscopes. For crying out loud, anybody can do it. Okay? Anybody can do it. So just imagine, it's like having those, remember the Lebanon attack, what was it? The pager? Now they have turned everyone that took those things, and don't get me wrong, that's not the only way they can deliver these particles. A higher dose, most likely, right? Because other methods they lose these particles, they don't go where they intended, some get captured and basically removed from the body. But if they shoot it directly in your blood, it circulates in there for a long time. And if they just weaponize your device, boom, just like that. And that's what they did, on top of many things, because that whole situation, it was more than nanoparticles. It is more than nanoparticles. I believe it was used to also spread a seed. So people who are going to be born, they are going to have 3. Combined DNA, one being foreign. I don't know what that will do, or it will just backfire and cut off reproduction as a whole. We are gonna see.
Auto-assemblés. Ils sont présents dans tous les vaccins anti-Covid-19, peu importe la société pharmaceutique.
They are present in all.
Qui les produit. Sinopharm, Sinovac. Et je termine là-dessus.
Operative explains how they hacked Kash Patel's personal emails and reveals some of the explosive information they're sitting on.
This is what we've pieced together from the emails and other intelligence sources. Charlie Kirk was never shot with a bullet. He was accidentally decapitated by a piece of shrapnel from a miniature explosive planted inside his microphone. The device was supposed to blow out his chest cavity, but the explosive malfunctioned. Instead of detonating downward, it ripped upward and took his neck. That is why security immediately ripped every device off the stage. That is why the security camera behind Charlie was yanked from the wall on live feed. That is why they literally stole his body from the scene before the coroner could arrive. That is why Netanyahu went on television within minutes to say it wasn't Israel before anyone had even asked. That is why the FBI took forever to find the killer. They had to rush manufacture evidence to match the lie.
He also dropped a bombshell. FBI top brass, including Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, may have sacrificed American lives to cover up the crime of the century.
The explosive itself was purchased in May 2025 from the Accurate Energetic Systems plant in Tennessee. There is a strong evidence suggesting the same device was tested at Fort Huachuca in the days leading up to the event. That's why there were shards of glass all over the floor of the van they hauled Charlie away in. That's why they poured several feet of concrete over the murder scene the same night. 1 month later, they blew up the plant in Tennessee and called it an accident. 16 Americans died in the blast. That's how paranoid they were about the truth getting out.
Analysts who've gone through the full archive say the plotters actually deliberated between taking out Tucker Carlson or Charlie Kirk. In the end, they chose Charlie because he was deemed more dangerous to Netanyahu's plans. The war with Iran would have been politically impossible if Charlie Kirk had still been alive. Take a moment and go back and watch the old clips of Charlie publicly congratulating Trump for refusing to start a war with Iran.
Again, there they go, right? I didn't really like Charlie Kirk for all the things that he said about African people, right? He was an asshole, right? But he didn't deserve that. Okay, I could have given him a piece of my mind. Maybe that would be enough to take out the stupidity out of his mind. Okay, I wouldn't blow up his entire chest just because he said he wouldn't trust a black pilot. Like, these are not two equal things. Right? Now, how was he a brainwashed neocons? No nukes for Iran. Who the fuck are you to dictate such things? Why do you have nukes in the first place? Maybe I apply the same logic that you applied. Deterrence. How about that? And if not, then tell me why. I don't even need you to tell me why, because that would mean I need your permission to do something. This is ridiculous.
He praised him for staying out of another Middle East regime change war. Now look at what happened after Charlie was gone. Everything changed. According to Iran, there's one little known fact that ties it all together.
The same month Charlie Kirk died, Pete Hegseth bought $2 million worth of lobster and crab for the troops, and the US military spent $300 billion in a single month, the most it has ever spent. They were already planning the war. The Iran war literally started the day he died. Charlie Kirk was its first casualty.
Just quickly, if Kash Patel had been running his digital life through VP.net, foreign adversaries wouldn't have stood a chance.
Of course.
When you look at all of these wars, Mexico, when you talk about the cartel, Jews. Oh, it's Jews, yeah. And most people don't know how connected they are to the cartels. Like there was, I think it was like 43 or something students disappeared. It was big national news in Mexico. All of a sudden, this one guy, the investigator for it, they started investigating him and realized he was part of the cartels. They're about to arrest him. They couldn't stop it because it's big national news. He fled to Israel. And Israel why would Israel take a Mexican cartel leader in? Not even Jewish.
Yeah, and you remember the interview they had? He's interviewing the guy. The guy's not even trying to do it. He's just talking about the children that they're kidnapping and burning. People
Torturing.
And they torturing them, then they burn them in acid. And the guy said, yeah, the Israeli, the IDF comes. And the guy says, wait, stop. What? He said, what? He said, what do you mean IDF? He said, yeah, the Israeli soldiers come over. He said, why? He said, I don't know. I've seen the Israeli soldiers. They're the ones teaching them how to burn people in acid and hide the bodies of Israel.
Some statements that were really important, what you said, that they were people from Israel that came over here and trained. Santiago Mesa Valer.
You know what I see? The Mexicans need to take back their country. Or else, wait and see.
On digging more in the information, one of the leaders of the cartel was sent to Israel to be trained of how to decompose the bodies and also how to make the drainage system. Can you explain that?
Yeah, in 1985, Ephraim, he go to Israel in training to dissolve bodies in acid, and then when he back to Mexico, he come together with other person to Israel, to Tijuana, and then
So he came from Israel with people from Israel to Tijuana.
yeah, to Tijuana, and then together to Israel and El Pozolero working together.
They trained him.
They train him.
When you look at all of these wars, Mexico, when you talk.
Well, enough of that. What I want to say is understand and know who you're dealing with. That's important. The world, I think, downplays Maraba. The world, I think, downplays the threat that we are currently facing. Literally, downplays. Why? Because they're distracted by nukes. Let me tell you about nukes in 2026. I've gamed it out and really I can't come up with any resolution to anybody firing such kind of weapon if it exists in these days. I can't. And that's not good. Because the madness that will ensue. Cannot be calculated or predicted. Let's just say that. So anyway, let me not go on for long. I'm gonna put a pin on it right here, and of course we are gonna hear from each other when we hear from each other. Right. Prince Easy signing out. Bye.